Hello, this is Dawad of Israel Awake, and welcome to part two, which I'm planning on being the final part in this two-part series on the Israelite Laws of Success. If you haven't already seen part one, then please do so. You'll find it on this Israel Awake YouTube channel. Okay, but in this particular episode, we're going to start to introduce the actual laws, statutes, and commandments themselves. So again, if you've not seen the first video, please do so. In the first video, we looked at the fact that we as Israelites, my brothers and sisters, those of you who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, yeah, you'll now know that you are actually the Israelites that the Bible speaks of and refers to, okay? And that's just the beginning. You now know who you are. You now know your biblical nationality, all right? Which is actually, biblical historical nationality. This is something that can be proven historically as well as biblically. In fact, that's one and the same, okay? We have our own body of laws. We don't need to be borrowing from other nations, other philosophies, other religions. We're self-sufficient in terms of body of law, in terms of what it takes to live a successful life, okay? With many blessings from our Creator and, the God of our nation, the God of Israel, Alahayam of Yasharal, okay? We learned in the previous video that faith works alongside works. Faith and works go together. It's not faith versus works or works versus faith, yeah? If you have faith but don't have the works, then to put it bluntly, how do you differ from a demon? A demon has faith. Satan himself has bags of it. He used to serve the Most High as his archangel. Yeah. So it wasn't an issue of faith for him. Okay. It was an issue of obedience and humility before the Most High. All right. So we don't want to fall in that category of having bags of faith but no obedience. Okay. And by the same token, if you have the works but don't have the faith, that can't work either. Both extremes are of no use. All right? Having the works but no faith, then you're just going through the motions. This is why sometimes it's not the best thing if you're like born into something without having that conversion of the heart. You're just doing it because that's the way it's always been done. You're just doing it because you were born into it. Your parents did it. You don't really feel it yourself, but it's something your parents did and it came upon you. So I'm sure you can appreciate both positions are lacking. What we need is both. You're justified by your faith, but you're rewarded according to your works. We saw that in the first video. All right. So we saw that. We saw how the Messiah himself, Yahweh Shai, yeah, aka Jesus Christ, how he taught that he didn't come to destroy or abolish or remove the law. Okay, but to fulfill it. And we will be looking at that in closer detail in forthcoming videos. Okay, we saw that the whole concept of love, as defined by the Holy Scriptures, is intimately and intricately linked with the commandments. In fact, one and the same. Yeah, if you say you love God, then actually the love of God is to keep the commandments. Love in itself is the keeping of the commandments. This is the biblical definition, and that's the definitions that we're interested in, all right? And we should be interested in as Israelites, okay? It's our culture. We're not just playing religion. It's who we are. The law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High are who we are. Now, sure, there has been a change in priesthood. We're no longer under the Levitical priesthood. We're now under the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, which is the Messiah himself. And we're going to come on to these concepts and what that means and what the implications are of that going forward. But for today, as per promise from the previous video, we're going to start looking at what some of these commandments are. All right? And just to start to get acquainted with them. All right? Because now's the time. Now's the time, brothers and sisters. Now's the time. As I was saying before in previous videos, by breaking the commandments, that's the source, if you like, the root problem behind our issue as a people in the earth today and the last few centuries. Okay, all our social ills, problems, curses can be traced back to us as a people, us as a nation, not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. So we fell into a hole. That's how we fell in. We broke the covenant. We broke the commandments. The way we get out then is to get back up to speed with the laws, statutes, and commandments that we should have been keeping from the beginning. Okay, that's how we get back out the hole. That's how you get out of a hole. That's how you, if you fell down a well, you've got to get back up the way you fell in. All right. If somebody's going to rescue you from a well, guess what? They're going to come down the same hole that you fell in. All right. But this time, hopefully, with an harness and some equipment to help to bring you back out again. Okay. It's the same situation right now. It's exactly what the Messiah did. He came down for us, came down into the same hole, if you like, to bring us back out of it. All right. Okay. Let's then get going. Let's get going with today's content. All right. So for that, obviously, as usual, I'm going to get some of the slides that I've prepared for you earlier on screen. Let's get that going. Okay. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so as I say, part 2. Yeah, I'm Dawad. Yeah, that's Paleo Hebrew pronunciation for David, which happens to be my middle name. Yeah, my given middle name at birth. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so firstly, just to say, if you're new to this channel, the Israel Awake channel, whenever I do a video and upload it, I always like to, if you like, put out this disclaimer, basically, that, and you can see it on screen, John chapter 6, verse 44. No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. This is important because this sheds light on what I'm doing here on this video, speaking to those who are listening right now. Yeah, I'm well aware that I can't draw anybody to the Messiah, to Yahushua. Yeah, it's the Father who does that. The Father does the drawing. Yeah, so if the Father is drawing you, okay, that's wonderful. If he isn't, there's nothing I can do about that. Right? So I'm here to spread the good news to my brothers and sisters of the fact that we are God's chosen people and that we've been lost. We have indeed. Yeah. But we are literally, we've lost, but not forever and not for good. According to the biblical prophecy, which has 100% track record for accuracy, we're on the rise, we're coming back. It may not seem like it at the minute, but for those well-versed with prophecy, we're on the rise, we're coming back, okay? The Father is about to do some very, very amazing and awesome events, okay? He's about to cause some very, very monumental worldwide events that will culminate in our restoration to our rightful estate as God's chosen people on the earth. Brothers and sisters, there's a lot to be very, very joyful about and excited about going forward, all right? And that's the whole purpose behind this YouTube channel, Israel Awake, to try to, get this this information out there so that people are well up to speed with all of that. All right. So no man can come to Yahushua. These are the words of Yahushua, you see, from John 6:44, saying that no one can come to him except the Father draws them. Okay. Also, the Messiah also said, yeah, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So again, the sheep will hear his voice. If you're his sheep, you will hear his voice. If you're not, there's nothing I can do about that. That's not my remit, okay? Just to get the information out there. Okay, but the one thing that I will ask you, where I can have some input, is at least hear the content of this video out from beginning to end, okay? Then you can be sure to be making an informed decision at least, at the very, very least. Yeah, at least you would have heard it all. So he that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. That's from the book of Proverbs, 18, verse 13. Okay, so if you don't hear the matter out, what's being said here is that is folly. That's foolishness. And also it's a shame. It's a shame that you didn't give it a fair hearing so that you could come to a reasonable conclusion at the very least. Okay? Okay, great. Okay, so what do we need to know as God's people? What do we need to know in these last days? The last days of the world as we know it and understand it. Yeah, what do we need to know? Okay, so I'm going to look at what I call some foundational scriptures here. We're going to take a look at the famous 10 Commandments. Yeah, most people probably are aware of Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments, that epic movie that was filmed in the 60s. Okay, with Charlton Heston playing Moses. And all the rest of it. So most people have at least heard the concept of the 10 Commandments. Whether or not they know what they are, that's another question. All right. But then we're going to come on to look at the fact that actually there's more than 10. Actually, all in all, there's about 600 odd commandments, precepts. And if you count them all up together, there's about 600 odd. All right. The point being, okay, that as God's people, okay, we have very high standards. Yeah, as kings and queens, we have very high standards. Any royal court has high standards. Okay, so when you think of it that way, should be of no surprise. And it's all for our good, and it's all for our benefit, and it all makes sense. But we'll come on to that. So there's actually more than 10. A lot of people limit it to 10 Commandments, and a lot of people think that everything else has been done away with, except for the 10 Commandments. And then you get those who, let's be honest, who cherry pick from the 10 Commandments. Okay, so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at some of the laws pertaining to morality, yeah, as opposed to immorality. What is, just like, as I said, the word has its own definition of love, whereas the Holy Scriptures has its own definition of love, which is linked to the keeping of the commandments. Well, in the same way, morality. Well, who decides what's moral or not? Yeah? When you say that's immoral, what standard are you going by? When you say something that's wrong, by whose definition and on whose terms? You see, without the body of law, yeah, it then becomes very subjective. People decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong. Yeah, your right could be somebody's wrong. All right, so there has to be a uniform, a universal body of law that we can reference. Okay, it's like, can you imagine a game of football, yeah, without goalposts? If you don't have goalposts on the pitch, how do you know when you've scored? Yeah, you need the goal defined. Okay, so that's the thing about the body of law. It sets the goal. It's the goalposts. So you know if you've scored or if you've missed. Without it, anybody could be kicking the ball on the pitch anywhere and claiming that they've scored. Yeah, I'm sure you get the point. Okay, so more than 10. We're going to look at some of the morality laws, look at some of the dietary laws. Yes, our Creator, seeing as He made us, knows what's good for us, knows what should be going in. Seeing as He created everything, He knows what's beneficial for our frame and for our body and what isn't. Okay? And holy days. Yes, we have holy days. Okay? And for those of you who are not aware of that, it may surprise you that it's not the days that you think are holy today. All right? So we're gonna look at, so there's a lot to cover here. So this is by way of if you like, an introduction into looking at the actual commandments themselves. Okay, and then beyond this video today, we'll start looking at laws in a lot more depth. In fact, each commandment will probably require a video in and of itself. Yeah, to do it some justice. All right, so to speak. Okay. So just to lay that out, just to lay out the store, let's then continue. Okay. So a lot of people, and there's a lot of confusion regarding law. I'm sure you will appreciate that. Some of the things I've heard said is, okay, no, well, of course, we keep the commandments. And people want to make a distinction, if you like, between the commandments that you find in Torah, which is the book of the law, which is the first 5 books of Moses, all right? And then what Yahushai, yeah, Jesus then says in the New Testament, all right? And here, let's have a look, okay? Because Yahushai was asked, what are the greatest commandments? What's the greatest commandment? And this was his response. So let's have a look. Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 40, okay? Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Okay, so that's quite clear. Yeah, and if you've got the time and you look into that chapter again yourself, you'll get the context of that he was approached and was asked, what's the great commandment of all the commandments? And this was his answer. Now, a lot of people see that and think, yeah, well, yeah, that's all you need to do. Just love God. I don't know about these commandments from Torah. Don't know about these holy days. He's not saying that here. All he's saying is that you love God with all of your heart, yeah, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. And then love your neighbor as yourself. That's clear. We don't need to get complicated and start working out holy days and dietary. That's not in there. He's not saying that. Yeah. Now, looking at this verse, I can understand why some people would come to that conclusion. Right? And they're saying, this is what he brought, this is what the Messiah brought. Never mind all that old stuff. That's yesteryear, that's gone. That's old school, Old Testament. All right? This is what we need to do now. This is the commandment. Do this, and you're keeping the commandments. Okay? It's a fair point. Okay? Based on if you're just based on this particular scripture alone. Okay? Okay, so let's take a closer look at this. First of all, the Messiah is not saying anything new here. He's not conflicting with the Torah, which the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, whichever phrase you're familiar with. All right? He's not making any contradiction. He's quoting Torah. He's not making this up. This is nothing new. Okay? And just to back that up, let's go there now. Let's go to the first 5 books and let's see if we can find where the Messiah himself was quoting from when he gave this answer as to the great commandment, and then to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, to see that this doesn't take away from the Torah. If anything, it backs up and establishes the Torah. Let's take a look. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. This is not a new commandment. Yahushua, remember, Yahushua is not confused. He already told us that he didn't come to abolish the law. We saw that in Matthew chapter 5. Yeah, in the last video. Yeah. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Didn't come to abolish the law. So he's not abolishing the law when he's talking about this. Okay? So, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. That's in there. Yeah. As we can see, it's a law, it's a love law, isn't it? It's a law of love. It's a love law. Always has been. But remember, we saw the definition of love, to keep the commandments. We saw that in the previous video. Okay? Okay, well, that's our love towards God. Now, what about our neighbor? Because he says the second is like as unto it, remember? And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Where could he be quoting that from? Or did he make it? Is that brand new commandment? Again, let's take a look. You have it on screen. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. And in the Paleo Hebrew, Lord would be Yahweh. Sorry, Yahweh. Yeah, some pronounce it Yahuwah. Some will say Yahweh. Okay. And some say Yahweh. Okay. So that's Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Yahweh wasn't coming in with a new commandment. He was establishing what was already known in Israel. Yeah, he was just making it clear that this, if you like, is the foundation of the law, right? It's the foundation of it. Yeah, that's why he said that on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Yeah, so that's the foundation, you see. The rest are born out of that. The rest are born out of that. Okay, that's what he was referring to. In fact, let's follow that line of thought. Okay. Okay. So the Ten Commandments. Where does the Ten Commandments fit in with all of that then? Well, you see. In fact, let me just go back one again. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Well, that's a clear instruction. But how do you do that? How can you be sure that you're loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul? How do you do that? How do you go about doing that? How do you break that down? And the same with your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. All right. But how do you do that? What is it to love your neighbor? How do you know if you're going wrong? How do you know if you're going off? If there's nothing to compare with? What's your frame of reference? How can you? Yeah, how are you measuring this? It's easy to you get the point. Let's go further. So the Ten Commandments. Let's have a look at this. Now we saw that Yahushua wasn't mentioning anything new here. It's from the Torah itself that he was actually quoting from when he said, "Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then love your neighbor as yourself." All right, and it's in that same Torah that we get the Ten Commandments. Yeah, you see them all outlined in the book of Exodus, and then again, yeah, in chapter 20, and then in the 5th chapter of Deuteronomy. Okay, well, let's have a look at the account here in Exodus. All right, I've put it here, the Ten Commandments, and I put 1 to 4. Right? Why have I done that? Well, the first 4 commandments literally break down in further detail how you go about loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul. See, that's what the Ten Commandments is. It's breaking the first 2. Like you said, those are the first 2. Yeah. If you wanted to, it's like building a house. Yeah. You start with the foundation to love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Then you build upon that. Yeah. So to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. How do you do that? That's what the first 4 commandments are about in the 10 commandments. And then how do you love your neighbor as yourself? That's what the last 6 of the 10 commandments are. Let's take a look. All right. So first commandment of the 10 commandments, which you'll find this listed in Exodus chapter 20, verse 3 to 8. Okay. If you want to take a look for yourself in your own time. But I've got the verses here on screen for you. Okay. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Well, that makes sense. All right. I'm married, right? Love my wife. Yeah. Made a vow not to have any other woman in that way. Yeah. We all get that concept, don't we? We all get the concept that if you're married and then you go with other women, you're now committing adultery. You're being unfaithful. That's not how I show love to my wife, and vice versa. Yeah. Right? You don't be unfaithful and you don't cheat on the other one. So in loving God, then, the same principle applies, you see, that principle of exclusivity. Yeah? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. He's breaking it down for us. Yeah? This is how you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. You don't have any other gods. That's a fact, yeah? That's important. Okay? Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Yeah? For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Jealous as in, he wants us all for himself. Yeah? Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Yeah, bearing in mind this is all contractual. We do our part, he does his part. But for breaches of the covenant, there are penalties for breaching the covenant. Yeah? So that's what we're seeing here. Okay? So he's saying you don't have any other gods before me, and then you don't bow down, you don't make images of them to bow down to. All right? And that's the point here, by the way. Yeah? It's not unlawful to have works of art. It's not unlawful to be a sculptor. It's not unlawful to be a painter. It's the act of having these things to worship, to bow down to. All right? Just to clear up that confusion, which I've heard before in the past. Okay. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Do you notice how these commandments so far are basically emphasizing our relationship with Yahweh, with the Lord? Do you see how it's breaking down how you love him? Do you see how there is a if you like, a template here, a guideline, breaking it down, giving us more information as to how we can go about loving him. Yeah? Don't take his name. In other words, respect his name. Don't hand it about. Don't blaspheme against it. Don't use it willy-nilly. Don't call upon his name but you don't mean it. You see, it's a love for the name. Because you feel like you're invoking him, you're calling upon him. All right, so you don't do that in vain. All right. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Yeah, these are the first 4 of the 10 commandments, and they all give us more information about what it is to love God with all of our heart, mind, and soul. The Sabbath day, you see, is all about him. It's about being holy. It's about stepping away from and being set apart from your normal routine. Yeah, servile work. Yeah, all the pursuits that would take your attention away from him. Yeah, nothing wrong in having pursuits, but you've got 6 days in which to do that. Yeah, out of 7 days of the week, he requires one. That's not unreasonable. And not only is it not unreasonable, we shouldn't even be using that terminology. It's a joy. It's a day off to spend quality time with your creator. It's wonderful. It really is. Yeah. Who doesn't like time off? And spent with your creator who blesses you? This is the point. The first 4 commandments relate to the Most High. Now, let's have a look at commandments 5 to 10. Okay, let's have a look at that. Now you're beginning to look at your neighbor, you see. And if you think about it, your immediate neighbor, your first neighbor is your parents. You were formed in your mother's womb. Your first neighbor. The first person you came into contact with on the planet Earth. And stayed in contact with intimately for 9 months. Yeah? Number 5, honor thy father and thy mother. Notice it's now shifting away from your relationship with the Most High. And as I say, shifting towards your neighbor. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Okay, let's keep moving. Thou shalt not kill. Yeah, actually, when you look at the Hebrew for the word there, for kill, it actually implies murder. Yes, actually, thou shalt not murder. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. If you're in the habit of loving your neighbor, you're not going to be in the habit of murdering your neighbors. Yeah, you see the point? Love thy neighbor as thyself. You see, this is just showing us, well, if you're going to love your neighbor as yourself, how do you do that? Well, you're going to respect your parents. You're not going to go around murdering people. Yeah. Thou shalt not commit adultery. You're going to be faithful, not unfaithful. Yeah, we spoke about that only a few moments ago. Yeah, thou shalt not steal. You see how it breaks it down? I could, yeah, just love your neighbor as yourself. Well, this is how you love your neighbor. If you love them, you're not going to be stealing from them. Yeah. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You're not going to tell lies on them. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, when you look at it closely. And thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Some of us know it as bad mind, grudgeful, red eye in the Jamaican patois. Yeah, I'm sure there's other terms for it in other cultures as well. Yeah, but you know that keeping up with the Joneses then mentality perhaps. Yeah, this need to go one better or one further. Yeah, this competitive, if you like, impulse to do better than your neighbor and to have everything that your neighbor's got and then more. Yeah. So again, not the best attitude to have if we're saying we're going to love our neighbors. All right. Okay. Because striving in that way, it says more about you. That's more of a love of self than it is the love for the neighbor. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So this is how it's set out. You see. All right. So the point, the underlying point is, Yahushai, the Messiah, was not contradicting the law. He was making it clear. Yeah. Fundamentals of the law. Okay. And he was quoting it. Okay. So even with, and then you, like I say, there's some people who believe that, well, all you need to do is keep the 10 Commandments. Yeah. But even then, and in another video, we need to be looking at things like the Sabbath day. Yeah. Because many don't think of it as important today. But some people are of the opinion that, you know what, every day is holy. And yeah, every day is a holy day for me. I don't need one specific day. I hear you, but it's not what the Father said. Yeah, I've heard that so many times. Yeah. Oh, every day. It sounds good on the outset, on the surface. Every day's holy. Yeah, every day's a holy. God's with me every day. I pray to him every day. No, I get that. But you see, it's the Father who decides. It's him who sets the commandments. He says there's one day in a week that is for him, and where we should treat it as a Sabbath, a Shabbat. Yeah, Shabbat Yawam in the Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew. Yeah. So there's more than the 10 that we know, and yet some people struggle with the 10. All right. Let's have a look at more. Let's have a look at more. Now, first of all, if we go to Deuteronomy, as I was saying before, Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5 give us an account of the 10 commandments. But let's have a look at verses 30 to 31 here, because you'll find something interesting. I'll read it from the screen. Go say to them, now just to get the context right, okay? In Deuteronomy, it's the second giving of the law. In fact, that's what Deuteronomy means. Yeah, it's just before we're about to enter the promised land, when our ancestors were about to enter the promised land. So a reminder was needed. Yeah, the first time that they heard it was back in Mount Sinai. Yeah, approximately 40 years previous. All right. So now that we're about to enter, it took them about 40 years, took the ancestors about 40 years through the wilderness. So just before they're about to enter, not long, a second reading of the law, if you like, from Marsha. Yeah, well, most people know as Moses. All right. So second reading of the law. So listen to this, verse 30 to 31. Go say to them, get you into your tents again. Yeah, so this is the Most High speaking to Marsha, to Moses. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and the statutes and the judgments, which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it. Okay, did you catch that? Let me just quickly explain what's going on here. At first, all the congregation of Israel were out. But then he tells Marsha, Moses, yeah, to tell him to go to your tents now. Yeah, you can take your leave now. And the father said, they can go away back in their tents, but you stay here. You stay with me, Marsha, because I have more to tell you to tell them. Yeah. So there's more than the 10 commandments. Yeah. That we need to know in these last days. Okay. So let's take a look. So as I say, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and the statutes and the judgments. All right. So let's start to take a look. Now, some will say, well, yeah, I get the 10 commandment bit. Yeah, because some don't even accept the 10 commandments, by the way. But let me just focus on those who do. All right. Yeah, I get the 10 commandments. Even if it's just because the Messiah did say in Matthew chapter 19 to the rich young man, yeah, that if you would enter life, keep the commandments. And when he was asked which ones, the Messiah, Yahushua, started to quote from the 10 commandments, making it clear then that it still stands and still valid. Yeah, because that was his instruction for entering into life. All right. So a lot of people see that and think, well, they concede. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, fair enough. I get that. We've got to keep the 10 commandments, but surely no more. Surely that's all we need. All right. Well, first of all, that's not what the Messiah said when he says, "I've not come to abolish it or to destroy the law." Yeah, but I'll leave that for other videos, because we'll really go into that and we'll really look at these scriptures that would seem to suggest, if you're not well read in the scriptures, that the laws have been done. Most of the laws have been done away with, and all the rest of it. Yeah, we'll touch on that. Okay, and the writings of Paul, we'll touch on those. Okay, but for today's purposes, on this particular video, okay, let's start to look at some of these other laws then. Laws that you don't find in the 10. Okay, try some of this out. Leviticus. Now, Leviticus, yeah, part of the Torah, yeah, so part of the law. Okay, I'm going to read chapter 18, and I'm going to read and go through, touch on verses 1 to 30. All right, and just touch on a few things there. Let's start right from the beginning, verse number 1. Okay, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. Yeah, so he's saying, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. After the doings of the land of Egypt wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. So don't you be like those Egyptians that I'm delivering you from. Yeah. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, don't be like the Canaanites whose land who were the previous owners of the land that I'm going to bless you with now and bring you into. Yeah. Don't be like the Egyptians that you've just come from, and don't be like the Canaanites whose land you're going, who were in the land that is now yours, because I'm giving it to you. Right? So shall ye not do, and after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. So don't do anything to their laws. Yeah. Ye shall do my judgments. And don't follow their footsteps. And keep mine ordinances to walk therein. So don't, whatever you see them doing, don't you get involved. Yeah. I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, ye shall live in them. I am the Lord. I am Yahweh. All right. Okay. So let's have a look at some of these. Okay. Now let's have a look at some of these, right? And let's see whether they have been thrown out or should be thrown out and not kept today. All right. Because that's the argument that some make for commandments that are outside the Ten Commandments. Yeah. So let's have a look at this. Look at this. Leviticus chapter 18, verse. Let's go to verse 6. Yeah. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. Do you know what that means? It's biblical code for sex. Yeah. Just like in Genesis, where you get an Adam knew Eve, and then had Cain and Abel. Yeah. Another term is to uncover the nakedness. Basically, to strip somebody down. Yeah, to take the clothes off. Yeah, to uncover the nakedness. Yeah. So let's have a look. Yeah. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 6. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him. So that's kin is family. Yeah. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. You shouldn't be uncovering the nakedness of your family members. I am the Lord. Verse 7, it goes into more detail. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother. Now, let me just pause there. It goes on, and it's on screen for those who are keeping on reading, but still, as you read, listen to what I'm saying. All right? Are we seriously suggesting that these laws are no longer valid? Are we saying that they're no longer relevant because they're not part of the 10 commandments? Are we saying it's now lawful to have sex with your mother? I mean, hey, I know some people say each to their own, right? But for those who say they love God, and definitely for those who say that the Bible is their book of authority in their lives, is this the side of the argument you want to be on? So it's now lawful to have sex with your mother? Let's keep reading. Verse 7. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Well, I agree. Who doesn't agree with that? Yeah? Let me read that again. Verse 7. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. It's one and the same, because the two become one flesh. Verse 9. The nakedness of thy sister. Don't uncover the nakedness of your sister. If you have a sister, don't go to have sex with your sister. Who disagrees with that? I agree. Do you? I think this is great law. Don't you? I believe this to be valid today. Don't you? You get the point? Yeah? Verse 9. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether she born at home or born abroad, even the nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter. If you've got a son and he's got a daughter, that would be your daughter-in-law. The Most High is saying that's off bounds. You don't go having sex with your daughter-in-law. I agree, don't you? Yeah? The nakedness of thy son's daughter or of thy daughter's daughter. Yeah? Or even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. Now, the point I'm bringing out here is for those who say the law has been done away with. These are some of those laws that you're talking about. For those who say it's only you only need to follow the 10 commandments, well, these commandments are not part of the 10. Remember, the Lord said, Yahweh said to Moses, send them back to their tents, but you stay here. I've got more to tell you to teach them. Yeah. And then some people may come up with this, maybe some sort of, indwelling, inbuilt righteousness. Well, you just naturally know not to do that. Really? There's many cultures who have. And there's people today who do it. And go as far as trying to justify what they do. You see, that's what happens when you don't have law. You end up with a lawless society. You end up with lawless living, where everybody becomes subjective and makes up their own laws to suit themselves. Yeah. Let's keep reading. Verse 11. The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. That be your auntie. She's thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister. Again, your auntie, but it's on your mother's side. But she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. That would be your uncle. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. Yeah? She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. All right? Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Yeah, I'm going to drop down to verse 20. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife. Yeah, not even your neighbor. Yeah, not the family, not your neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. See, now these are some of the things that were be done by the Canaanites. This is why the God said, no, don't engage in those practices. And we find this today among some people. All right. So, yeah, strong arguments for the law still being in place. Yeah, beyond the 10 commandments. Okay. Let's look at more, and this is according to the scriptures. So I'm aware that today's society is getting further and further removed from the moral codes that we find in the scriptures. Okay, but it's there to be read and to be taught. Okay, so laws on let's look here. Leviticus 18. I'm going to go to verse 22. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. All right. Many would take issue with. Many do take issue with that today. I understand that. I live in today's society. I hear that. I see that. But according to the scriptures, these chapter and verses that we're reading here, and I know some people will want to come with some of the verses that are taken out of context, and we will be addressing that going forward. All right. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to divide thyself therewith. Now that's bestiality. Yeah, some pronounce it bestiality. Yeah, having sex with animals. Now there are people who do that. I happen to agree with the scriptures. I happen to agree with the Lord. I happen to agree with Yahweh. How about you? Yeah, it's so important to bring these scriptures out because sometimes they don't even see the time of day. Yeah, so many people say the law's out and don't know what the law is. Yeah, and I can understand that if people don't know the law and just hear this teaching that it's been done away with, you think maybe that's a fair thing to say until you read the law for yourself and realize actually I think that should stay. Yeah. Okay. As I was saying before, some of the nations like the Canaanites were doing this before. So verse 24, defile not ye yourselves in any of these things. For in all these things the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. Yeah. And the land is defiled. Yeah. Because from the Most High's perspective, these types of sins defile the land. Yeah. And the land is defiled. Therefore, I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomit out inhabitants. Yeah, and yes, that's the language used in the King James. Actually, the land vomited out the Canaanites for all these abominable practices. All right. Okay. Let's keep going here. Well, I'm not going to labor the point. Verse 28 says again, and the land spew not you out also. We've got a warning. So don't you engage in those practices, otherwise the land will spew you out as well. Yeah. Verse 30, therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs. Yeah. Which were committed before you, that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God. Not unreasonable to me. How about you? Yeah. You watching this video right now. Yeah, you think about that for yourself. Okay. Let's have a look at some more these laws that are outside of the Ten Commandments. So here's Deuteronomy. Yeah. Chapter 18, I'm going to read verses 9 to 13. Verse 9, when thou art come into the land, so again, giving us his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Where we saw that, yeah, it's just we've seen some of that in terms of some of the sexual practices. Yeah. Verse 10, there shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination. So passing through the fire is one of the practices in the worship of Molech, one of these pagan gods. Yeah, where it was sacrificed, basically child sacrifice by fire. Unfortunately, this is some of the practices. Well, saying no more on that, I'll just keep moving on. You don't need me to tell you that that's abominable. Keep moving on. To pass through the fire, or that useth divination. Now, you see, things like child sacrifice by fire. Most people would say, well, yeah, that's clearly out of order. That's clearly wicked, clearly evil. Yeah, but it's when we get to things like divination. Yeah, I mean, you only need to go to a New Age store, bookshop, and you can find books on this, how to conduct these things. Yeah. So that's where it gets a little bit more unclear, isn't it? Based on because of the world that we're living in today, the society, and the values that are acceptable today. Yeah. Or an observer of times. That's astrology. Yeah. Not astronomy. Astrology. Not astronomy. Not just the studying of the planets and the stars. Yeah. But astrology. Yeah. Believing with the whole pantheon of gods, if you like, that go along with that. Yeah. And some of it. Yeah. Now there are signs. We're told to watch for signs in the heavens. All right. So it's not just observing signs in the heavens. It's actually going along with the whole pantheon of gods that go along with that. All right. Perhaps something to be looking at going forward in more detail. Or an enchanter, or a witch. Yeah. The use of spells and all the rest of it. Yeah. Which, if you think about it, is pretty much that's great if you are very egoic. Not to say that necessarily all witches are supposed to be full of egos. There's people practicing witchcraft. All right. According to the scriptures, that's a no-no. Yeah. So If you don't go with the scriptures, then clearly you're going to be doing what you're doing. I'm speaking to those who are waking up, realizing now you are children of Israel. Perhaps you've been involved in some of these practices like divination, astrology, and I get that. If you don't know this stuff, then there's no guidance, is there? All right? But I'm bringing it to your attention now because now's the time. Now's the time for us to return back onto the Most High, all right? So that we can be elevated and delivered from the really dire situation that we find ourselves in today as a people, as a nation, all right? So, observe at times, enchanter, witchcraft. It's not for us, Israel. In fact, what we have is far superior. Yeah, the right relationship with the Most High is far superior than any sorcery, any enchantment, any obia, any Lawrence, yeah, any of these practices, any of the dark arts, all right, or a charmer, it says in verse 11, or a consultant with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. A necromancer, by the way, is somebody who consults the dead, who endeavors to, if you like, initiate a channel of communication with the dearly departed, all right? And I have to say, Israel, okay, we have to be quite careful about how far we go in terms of ancestor worship, all right? We are to respect our ancestors, yeah, honor them. Yeah, that's born out of the commandment to honor your mother and your father. Well, if you're honoring your mother and your father, then what about your mother's mother and your mother's 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 mothers and your father's 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 fathers? You get the point, yeah? Those are our ancestors, yeah? So you honor them, yeah? But you don't worship them. They are not Yahweh. They are not the Lord God Almighty. They're not Yahweh. Yeah? Alahayan. Okay? So I have to make that point. I know many of our people are mixed up in these things. And again, it's not, if you like, it's not an accusation, it's a realization. A realization that, what we have available to us is far superior. Yeah? And, it's time. It's time to return unto our God, the God of Israel. Okay? Okay, let's see. Verse 12, for all that do these things are an abomination. Takes it very seriously, does our Father, the Most High. Yeah? An abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. It's some of the reasons why he drove out. If you ever wondered, poor Canaanites, what did they ever do? Well, it was abominable practices like the uncovering of nakedness of family members and burning babies in the fires. Yeah? Verse 13. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. Yeah? For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times. Yeah? Deep into astrology. And unto diviners. Yeah? Looking for wisdom elsewhere other than from the Most High. The Most High is the right source for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Yeah. But as for thee, and power. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee so to do. So in other words, I've not suffered you so to do. By the way, suffered in its original meaning of the word, which means to permit. So it's basically saying, I've not permitted you to do this. Okay. Okay. So that's a quick look then at some of the laws regarding morality and immorality. All right. So this is what we're doing here. We're seeing that the law essentially is a law of love, to love the Father and love your neighbor as yourself. We saw that can be broken down then into the 10 commandments, the first 4 commandments, all about how you go about loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then the last 6, all about how you go about loving your neighbor as yourself. All right. We then realize that there's more than 10 commandments. All right. And that when you look at those laws, yeah, I'm sure most of you would agree, pretty good laws. We would all agree with them. Don't uncover your mother's nakedness, your father's nakedness. Yeah. Anyway, But so the Father's, he's been sure to make sure that we're well informed on how to be his holy people with high royal standards. You see, yeah, you're from a blessed bloodline, a holy bloodline, very special. Yeah, a holy people, a royal priesthood, Peter said. All right. So it follows that we would have the code of conduct befitting of that. We would have the lifestyle that would reflect our high estate. All right. Now in the same manner, there are dietary laws. Yeah. Now I'm aware there's many who say no, clearly that definitely it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, it's what comes out. I know the scriptures and those scriptures stand. Okay. Oh, but what about the when people are told to don't call anything unclean and eat? I know the scriptures that people will use to try to get away from keeping the law. And as I said, there will be forthcoming videos to look at those. All right. But let's just keep going. Remember, hear it out, hear the matter out. Okay, dietary laws. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying unto them, yeah, so this is, you'll find the dietary laws, a great summary of them in Leviticus chapter 11. All right. So, and the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Okay. And then God goes on, Alahayam goes on to then break down what kind of meats animals are clean to eat, safe to eat, healthy to eat, as opposed to those that are abominable, unclean to eat, unhealthy to eat. And it's funny, because a lot of science and nutritionists have actually caught up with the principles from the scriptures. Things that were revealed in the scriptures long ago have only just in recent times come to light in the world of nutrition. But I won't go into that now. That will be a more in-depth study on these things. And I'm not going to break this down now for you as well. For those who are reading on ahead, yeah, you'll see it's making reference to hooves and the parting of the hooves and all the rest of it. I'm not going to go into that now. That's the subject matter for another video going forward, all right? But just to make you, the whole point of this video is to make you aware of these laws. In case you didn't know, yes, there are dietary laws. Yes, there are laws governing morality, not just the 10, which of course is the foundation of the law, born out of the 2 great commandments. Yeah. So these are the beasts. So God does tell us which beasts we can eat. All right. Now, who would know better than your Creator as to what's good for you? He made your stomach. He made your physiology, your anatomy. Yeah. He created and designed your body. He formed you in the womb. Who better than him? Somebody makes a car and they say, right, I've just made this car and it's an unleaded car. They're going to tell you to put unleaded petrol in there. Now you may just say, well, you know what? I'm sick and tired of unleaded petrol. I want to put petrol. I want to put good old fashioned petrol in the car. No. Yeah. Or if it's a diesel car, that's probably even better example. Yeah. Different type of fuel. We've got a diesel car. The manufacturer says it's a diesel car. You put diesel in there. Now you could go and put petrol in. But see how far you get. Literally, see how far you get in that car. The diesel car was not designed for petrol. It's designed for diesel. Yeah, you get the point? Well, in the same manner, the Father who creates us, he knows what we're designed for. He knows what is easily digestible from what is not so easily digestible. He knows what kind of toxins may be in certain animals because of what they're made for. Yeah, some are built and designed to take on a lot of toxins. Okay, so if you eat that, you'll end up with those toxins inside your system. He's trying to avoid that. All right, who knows better than the Creator himself? He made the animals and he made you. He knows what's what. All right, I'm not going to break that down now, as I say. All right, but just to give you an awareness, just an appreciation so that you're prepared for future videos on this going forward. All right. So we've got laws about animals to eat. Yeah. Take a look for yourself as well. Yeah. Yeah. When you get a chance, Leviticus chapter 11. Okay. Let me jump down to verse 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. All right. So we've got laws about the kind of animals on the earth that we can eat. Then he goes on about what from the waters we can eat. All right. There are laws for our benefit, for our success, for successful life. And when I say success, yeah, I'm not talking these, prosperity gospels where it's all about, money and all the rest of it. Look, nobody knows better than we do about what we need. And we already saw commandments where the Father said, I will bless your basket. Yeah. But we don't just keep the commandments because, just another technique for getting rich. Yeah. It's because we love the Most High. Yeah. If you like, that success is a byproduct of that. Great. But it shouldn't be the sole purpose. If that's your sole purpose, I've tried every other get rich quick scheme. They've not worked. Maybe this will. If that's your intention, if that's your agenda, that's not what the Father's looking for based on the Holy Bible. Yeah. So, but in any case, yeah, the success is a byproduct of that. Nobody wants to see us in full joy more than he does. All right. Verse 9, then, as I said, these shall ye eat of all the waters. And it goes on to break that down. I'm not going to go there now because this is not a video about that. All right. It's about laws in general, as a collective, as opposed to your specific laws. Okay. Verse 13, and these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. So there's birds and stuff that you can eat and birds that you can't. Right? And it makes sense, once you break it down and when you combine it with the science, it's amazing. Yeah. I'm not going to go there now. I'm just making you aware that these laws exist and are in the Bible. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to go there now. Yeah, I'm not going to go there now. Okay. And again, none of which, by the way, is odd. In fact, you'll surprise yourself if you look at some of these laws. Because a lot of them think, well, yeah, I just wouldn't do that anyway. Yeah. That always seemed weird to me. Yeah. A lot of them you'll find will make sense to you. Yeah. We may have fallen from grace a long way, but we're still the Israelites. Right? Some things, some things just make sense to us. Yeah. Like we didn't need COVID-19 to know that we should be washing our hands. Yeah. The amount of times I've had conversations with brothers and sisters about, going to the toilet, coming out, washing your hands, and watching other people who don't. Yeah. Let's keep moving. Okay, so verse 29. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep on the earth. Things that creep around. Yeah. It just wouldn't occur to me to want to pick them up and eat them. Yeah. The weasel and the mouse. It says it. Look, these also shall be unclean. And, the Lord is not being unreasonable, is he? These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth. The weasel, the mouse, the tortoise after this kind, the ferret, the chameleon, the lizard, the snail. And those people eat snails. But it's a no-no for us Israelites. And the mole. All right. Just to give some examples. Yeah. Let's have a look. Okay. Again, verse 31. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whosoever doth touch them, when they be dead, shall be unclean until the evening. Yeah. And it goes on to talking about, animals, unclean animals that may fall into water, and then what you do with the water. Very exhaustive, very thorough. Yeah. And you need to be, because we're talking about health here now. Yeah. He wants these people to be healthy people, to get the best out of life. Vibrant, full of vitality, and the zest for life. Yeah. Not sick all the time and all the rest of it. Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. Let's just keep on going. Verse 34, of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water cometh shall be unclean. This was going back to the water. I'm not going to go there now, right? We'll do that another time. Okay. Yeah, more of the dietary laws. As I say, it's all there in Leviticus chapter 11. We'll go there another time. Yeah, I won't go there now. Yeah, I won't go there. Well, I will just look at verse 45. For I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is what he says after he gives us the dietary laws. And this is the point, be holy. Holy means to be separate, set apart, not like the rest. You're not supposed to just go along because the majority are doing it. That's never been a good argument, by the way, for anything. All right? To just go along with the masses. Oh, everybody's doing it. It must be okay. No, not at all. All right? If anything, it's often an indication that something could be wrong because that's the kind of sign of the times that we're in. But anyway, yeah, ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. And this is the point. He set us apart as a holy people, you see. Yeah. Okay. So that's just to make you aware, there are laws, dietary laws. Okay. And then there are feast days. And again, we're not going to go into that. I just want you to be aware of them. Yeah. There are feast days. And it's not Christmas. I'll give you a teaser. I'll give you a spoiler. Yeah. It's not Christmas. It's not Easter. All right. Let's not the things that you'd be familiar with. Yeah. For those of you who are unaware of that, there may be some surprises for you going forward in some of the forthcoming videos. All right. All of which can be backed up by the scriptures. All right. And history. Okay. Well, scripture is a historical account in any case, but you get the point. So holy days, Sabbaths, feasts. Okay. But a great summary of them can be found in Leviticus chapter 23. All right. Let's take a look at. Let's just quickly go through. I'm not going to label the point on any of them or go into any depth. It's just to make you aware. All right. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord. Yes, there's such thing as the feasts of the Lord. Yeah. Which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Convocation is an assembly, a get together. Even these are my feasts. It starts off with the weekly Sabbath. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. So we're commanded to assemble on that day. Yeah. If you can, if you've got people that you can assemble with, then we're commanded to assemble. Ye shall do no work therein. It's a Sabbath, it's a day of rest, you see. Yeah. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. All right. So that's the very first one he mentions, the weekly one. But then he goes on to proclaim annual ones, annual holy days, not weekly, but annual ones. Yeah. Starts with Passover. You see that in verse 5, on the 14th day of the first month, which in Hebrew it would be the month of Abib. Okay. So we see Passover, so we're supposed to be keeping Passover. Now, Passover is round about the same time as Easter. Yeah. In fact, there was well, I won't go there now, but we're supposed to be keeping the Passover, not the Easter. And Passover expands that into the days of unleavened bread. So you'll see that in verse 6. So it's supposed to be keeping Passover, days of unleavened bread. Yeah. The Feast of First Fruits. You see that down in verse 10. All right. I'm just going to go through them, yeah, quite quickly. All right. Let's have a look here. The Pentecost. Many would have heard of Pentecost. Some of you would have kept it. All right. Funny that some people would have kept the Pentecost, but not the rest of the holy days that are in Leviticus 23. Yeah. Yeah. So very, very interesting. Many say they keep the Sabbath, which is fair enough. Yeah, but then don't go on to keep the annual days. Very interesting is that. We'll be looking at that and the reasons for that. Yeah, and the confusion around that. Yeah. So we can say it'd be 15. This is the Pentecost, otherwise known as the Feast of Weeks. Yeah. It's called the Feast of Weeks because of the instructions of how to keep it. And let me read verse 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. 7 Sabbaths is 7 weeks. All right. So that's where you get the term the Feast of Weeks. As for Pentecost, the Pentecost is relating to 50. Yeah. And that's because even after the morrow, after the 7th Sabbath, shall ye number 50 days, we read in verse 16. Yeah. So it's from that 50 days that we get the term Pentecost. All right. Okay. I won't labor the point now, though. Okay. So we keep that. The blowing of trumpets. It's called the Feast of Trumpets. It's in verse 24. That's another holy annual Sabbath day that we, as the children of Israel, should be keeping this day. They've not been done away with. Yeah. And going forward, we'll see that. And we'll see New Testament observance of that. We'll see that Yahushua kept these days. We'll see that the disciples kept these days. And they set the example for us to follow. All right. But like I say, we'll come on to that and going forward in future videos. The Day of Atonement. Okay, that's a day of fasting. Yeah. One term for fasting is to afflict your soul, because you're afflicting your soul by going without, sustenance, food and drink. Yeah. But we're supposed to be having a day of fasting. Yeah, that's part of the holy calendar. All right. So there's reasons for that, and it's beautiful. And by the way, for those who sitting there thinking, oh my word, this sounds so Old Testament, so old school. Yeah. Well, bearing in mind that the Old Testament is just the New Testament concealed, and the New Testament, the Old Testament revealed. All right. Once you understand the spiritual meaning behind these holy days, you'll see how it fits in to the New Testament narrative. All right. Now, for sure, some of the aspects of how we used to keep these days have changed. For example, we don't do animal sacrifice anymore. So anytime you see any reference to animal sacrifice, you can put that to one side. Certainly, for sure. All right. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Yeah. Just because you're doing away with the animal sacrifices doesn't mean you throw the whole day out with it. All right. And that's what's been happening. But we'll come on to that in future videos. All right. So we see that. Okay, so that's the Day of Atonement we should be keeping. The Feast of Tabernacles, yeah, otherwise known as the Feast of Booths. Yeah, have you even heard of it? A lot of people haven't, and it's not their fault. They've not been taught it. It doesn't get preached. All right, it's been done away with. Some people argue. All right. So if you've not heard any of these, you can only know what you know, what you've been exposed to. I get that. All right. But now you've been exposed to it, and we're gonna, go into more detail going forward, as I say. All right. Okay. I'm gonna pretty much zip past the rest of that now. Okay. Right. So that was the whole point. As you can see, I had quite some detailed notes and scripture references there. Okay. But for the purposes of this video, that will suffice. Okay. So hopefully, having watched this video, for those of you who are not aware, hopefully that's giving you a stronger foundation upon which we can build in terms of our understanding, right? And perhaps for those of you who were, aware of some of these days, hopefully this has given you another perspective to it, perhaps, maybe an easier way of remembering it, or just making more sense of the whole matter. Yeah. So whichever is the case, I hope you got something from that. Okay, so going forward then, what we're going to look at, because I'm always aware, of other people's walks of life and backgrounds and perspectives. Yeah. So what about, says on screen here, the question I've posed here, what about some of the scriptures that seem to suggest that the law has been done away with? Yeah. We're going to start to look at some of those scriptures. All right. We're going to deal with them. We're going to address them. All right. And in light of the scriptures in its entirety, that's often the issue when scriptures are, are not, if you like, married to relevant scriptures. All right. And of course, as I've been saying throughout this video, right, going forward, we'll have a more in-depth look at the laws themselves. So don't worry about that. All right. Because even some of the laws, even amongst our awakening Israelite community, there's differences of opinion as to some of how you observe some of these laws and how you go about them. All right. So I'm aware of that too. And to be honest, that's to also be expected. Yeah, we've been away for a few centuries. We're waking up now. Yeah, there's going to be there will be some difference of opinion. Yeah, but it shouldn't take away from the love and the bond that we share as the children of Israel. Yeah, we're all waking up, and you know, I will share with you scriptures that make it very, very clear that you know, when the King returns, the Messiah, Yahushua, when he returns, he's gonna clear up a lot of issues for us all anyway. Yeah, because he knows more than any of us. All right, so we do need that level of humility, to, you know, towards one another, and definitely towards him. Anyway, so I'll leave it there. Yeah, hope you got something from that. Yeah, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to to uploading the next video for you. So in the meantime, please, you know, if you got something from this video, or if you think somebody might get something from this video, yeah, please like the video by clicking on the thumbs up, yeah, to help you know, build up the profile, and please share, yeah, please share with those who you think may benefit, or even if it's just to talk about it, yeah. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, or if it's your first time you're watching one of our videos for the first time. Please subscribe, because I do put out videos quite regularly. All right. I think pretty much I've been doing pretty much one a week. So yeah, it's quite frequent. Please subscribe. And once you've subscribed, please click on the full bell. All right. Because as you, for those of you who use YouTube, you'll know that there's different options for notifications. It's the full bell you want, so that you receive all notifications. All right. And for anybody who wants to get in contact for whatever reason, all right, it might be a question or something to share, or whatever the case is, right, then please feel free to contact us here at Israel Awake. The email address that we're using currently is on screen, israelawaken7@gmail.com. All right. So I hope you've got something from that. I hope that's been useful. Okay. As I say, please look out for the next upload. Okay. In the meantime, may the Most High bless you and yours. Bye for now. Shalom, Israel.